And call to order the meeting of the Yolo Animal Services Planning Agency, Thursday, the 17th. We have a roll call, please.
Member Neville? Here. Member Biasi?
Here.
Member Vega? Here. Member Provenza?
Here.
All present.
Okay, thank you. Next, we'll go on to consider the approval of the agenda. Any changes to the agenda? Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion.
None. Okay, passes unanimously. Okay, we move on to public comment. So this is an opportunity for members of the public to address the committee on anything that is not listed on our agenda.
Okay, we have two cards for public comment. We have first Leah Rosenberg.
Yeah.
Good morning, and my name is Leah Rosenberg, and I am here as secretary of a 501c3 corporation called Unleashing the Possibilities. We call it UTP. We have 100 Yolo County residents on our email list, and we care about all our cats and dogs and other little furry animals. Our ultimate goal is Yolo County to build a new modern animal shelter. UTP has raised private money, which we will contribute to that project so that it can be a true public-private partnership. The current shelter is old and tired, and we know we can all do better. It's the Yolo way. I'm here because the public cares, and we are watching our final thought, watching what's going on. I would also like to add that as you drive around Yolo County, for me, that would be Davis, Woodland, and sometimes West Sac, that you can see the growth that's happening, which will bring many families and will bring many animals. And so the population growth will be much higher of our furry friends, whether they get rid of their animals or dump them on the farmland. We need to make sure that they're all taken care of. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Lisa Gaines.
Good morning, everyone knows who I am. I'm also the president of UTP, but I was also assigned as a liaison to the JPA when the JPA was created. So somehow between 3 or 4 years ago in COVID, I ended up becoming a member of the public. So one of the things I'd like to request is that I be back at the table as a liaison. I'm not a voting member, but I do have access to experts in the industry, and that was the reason that I was there to begin with. As Leah said, UTP is a 501c3, and our sole mission is to assist in raising funds for a new shelter. It's not our job to decide what kind of a shelter, but it's our job to help you as a county create a public-private partnership. I've been working with my city representatives in Winters to talk about what the current needs are, what kinds of questions people are asking us that have not been answered. I have a relationship with Stephanie. And my hope, I agreed with the administrator's office to create an expert committee and have yet to submit those names, but it's a committee of outside experts that can help us determine what we need based on the city's needs. So I'm just here again to reiterate the fact that you have availability in somebody that can be a liaison for you, and anything that you need, I am happy to provide to you. So I think that's it, Bill.
Thank you. Any other members of the public that would like to comment? Online?
Yes, I have one hand raised. Evelyn Dale.
Ed Evelyn?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I happen to be a longtime advocate for animal care and welfare in Yolo County, and I am also a board member of UTP. I just wanted to share with you some of my thoughts. Yolo County's animal shelter needs to be updated. I'm sure you know this, but it needs to be updated so it can adequately provide for the current and future needs of its community. The facility is too small, outdated, and understaffed. As a result, the services such as low-cost spay and neutering have been suspended for too long. And California law requires all pets adopted from animal shelter to be spayed or neutered. For this reason, spay and neuter services for our Yolo County Animal Shelter needs to be restored immediately. Without these services, the incredible backlog of animals at the shelter currently waiting to be adopted will increase astronomically, resulting in pets being euthanized simply because there's no space for them. It's time to move forward and bring Yolo County Animal Services into the 21st century with funding, facility improvements, staffing, and services. And I look forward to the JPA, the Animal Services JPA, actually moving forward and getting this job done. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that all the public comment we have today? I think it is.
No, Chair, I do also have another hand raised. I have Eileen Sametz.
Go ahead, Eileen.
Good morning, JPA members. This is Eileen Sametz. I formerly worked before retiring from the university at Vet Med Teaching Hospital for 35 years in the microbiology department as a clinical microbiologist. I have since been volunteering with the Yolo SPCA with their trap neuter release program, and I also have been running the Mercer Clinic for the Pets of the Homeless Holiday Pet Basket program for 28 years. So the reason I joined, I am a member of the Unleashing the Possibilities group, and it is imperative that the JPA start moving forward with a plan for updating and improving the animal shelter, be that not necessarily a new building, a new one facility, not necessarily could be a complex. What we really need is a spay and neuter, a new spay and neuter facility dedicated to that, because what's happening is the animals are, be they domestic pets or ferals, are multiplying, and the problem is getting exponentially worse. It's going to be more expensive, and so we need action now. The shelter, as you've heard earlier, is too small, it's outdated, understaffed, and the spay and neuter services have been suspended. So we really need also to get the rig that does mobile spay and neuter services, which was focused primarily originally for ferals, but at the same time we just need it near the shelter, and it can handle both domestics and ferals on a small scale. But regardless, that is like just it's an ancillary help that we need long term, but we need a new spay and neuter facility built at the animal shelter. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any more members of the public?
Yes, I also have Amy Hanna. Go ahead, Amy. You have 2 minutes.
Okay, good morning and thank you for letting me speak. I'm a pet professional. I'm a professional pet sitter. I graduated from UC Davis, and I see the struggles that people in animal rescue are facing right now with the increased populations of cats and dogs absolutely being dumped, you know, pretty much like right in plain sight. Some of the cruelty isn't even being hidden anymore. And I just really wanted to reiterate and be another voice to push for what's already been said from Unleashing the Possibilities, and to give those folks that do actually work in the trenches of the shelter what they need, which is a better and more improved, modernized shelter. So I'll keep my comment brief, and I appreciate all your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more?
I do not have any additional hands raised at this time, Chair.
I have.
We have one more submitted here.
Yes, Bob Schaber, please.
Mr. Shabba, please.
I take the podium?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Really important. Anyway, I had life before law school. I was actually a deputy sheriff with the Yolo County Sheriff's Office, came on board in 1975. And it was shortly after we acquired the shelter that Deputy now operates. Hasn't grown in size. Our population has grown, the animal population has grown, we haven't grown. She's performing miracles and doing magic acts with very little. For 10 years now, seems like we've been kicking the can down the road, and hopefully this group will actually make it happen. We need to move forward with the funding. We need to move forward with getting animal spay, neutering taken care of. And with that, thank you.
Thank you. Hey, anyone else? Not seeing anybody in the room and nobody. else
Sorry,
online?
Chair, I do have one more hand raised.
You have
This is,
one?
okay.
Okay,
Oh, sorry, they took their hand down, so we're good. Thank you.
okay, thank you.
We received written comments from Lori Leuven and Julie Chang, which have been forwarded to the members and will be placed into the record.
Thank you.
Okay, it looks like there's someone named Nancy who kind of raises her hand and takes it down, so is it all right if I put her forward for public comment, Chair?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead, Nancy, you have 2 minutes to speak.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. My name is Nancy Dowling and I'm a Woodland resident. And my husband and I have had 12 dogs over the course of our long marriage, the last 10 of which have been rescues. And I'm just speaking to the importance of rescue dogs and what they can do for our community. One of our dogs was pushed out of a car. It turned out that he was the most extraordinary hospice therapy dog, working first in Boulder, Colorado, and then for Yolo Hospice. Had he not been rescued, people, probably 1,000 people we saw and their families would have suffered. Rescue animals make a difference in our world. Please help them by helping the Yolo County Animal Shelter. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more?
I have no additional hands raised at this time, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, we will move on to approval of the minutes from April 20th. Any changes to the minutes? Okay. Changes? Anyone care to make a motion for the minutes?
Saying I wasn't here, otherwise I would have been on it, and I wasn't here either.
How about Jim? Jim, would you like to make a motion?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I'll move for approval of the minutes.
Okay, we have a motion. I will second it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None? Okay, passes unanimously. Thank you.
I think technically, we'll have to say it didn't pass, but we'll enter them into the record
Okay.
as approved by those present.
Okay, thank you.
Best we can do it.
Technically, under this situation, yeah. Okay, we're gonna move on to our regular agenda. Item number 6 is receive the animal shelter update. Stephanie?
Good morning. First of all, I want to thank all of our supporters. So that continued support is what is making us, continue to move forward and just making sure that we are on the forefront, as everyone does care about the animals in our community. I did want to, not to take any of the thunder from the rest of the presentation, but we are doing, making some really positive changes with all that deferred maintenance. So I really am excited about that. It does take a long time, but we are finally working on, the roofing and AC in the dog building. Actually, at the end of the month is when we are going to be starting to repair those kennels. Temporary as far as, not redoing everyone, but that will really help. And because our kennels, yes, the building's old and we know all those things, but the types of animals we have right now, especially dogs, having shepherds and huskies who don't really take real care of our kennels. So that's something that we are faced with some additional challenges. So with these repairs, it's going to be better for staff, better for the animals. How much, sorry, are you guys, can I go ahead with our staffing? Is that?
Yeah, that's, yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so really excited about and thankful for the support in our vet transition. And so most everyone knows that at the end of June that we did not renew the shelter medicine contract with UC Davis, and we are forming our new our vet team. So they will Dr. Serena Brenner came on with us, and she is extra help as of right now, but consulting veterinarian, and it's great. It's she has 20 years of experience combined with the exotics and zoo medicine, which, you know, the shelter is a zoo most days. So it's it's a nice just change pace for her. But she also is bringing with her, she's guided some people to us for that veterinary support staff. So those are the RVTs. So we'll be hiring county registered vet technicians, animal health technicians who are going to be able to do spay neuters. So we have a lot of support from the community. I'm partnering with multiple veterinarians within the county who have stepped up to help us in this interim. And also our partnership with UC Davis still continues. So the emergency department was key in this transition. So they're a huge help to us and appreciate our colleagues there. Also, the Gorley Center has, they take animals from different shelters and for students. So obviously it's a teaching, it's part of the VMTH. And so they are taking actually 5 of our dogs this week, which is good. I know 5 isn't a lot, but it's 5 more than, you know, a lot of shelters have that need. And so we're on that rotation with them, which is a great partnership to continue. We've been with them before, but there were some changes with them. And so everyone is really positive and looking forward to how we can serve more members of the community and the animals. We also have an event coming up on Saturday. So I will be sending that out as well in the spirit of the fair that's going on, but also we're doing Clear the Shelters is kind of a national campaign. And so we're having our Clear the Shelter event on Saturday from 11 to 3. And so it's our adoption fair, and adoptions are $50, which is a reduced rate there. And but we will have snacks, refreshments, lots of cats and dogs, some tents set up. So it is something that we are, adoptions are continuing, and we do weekly offsites. So we've been having quite a great success and welcoming with City of Davis has a lot of microbreweries, and we've been doing some plant sales. So a lot of people who are just gathering have been inviting us to come and just take a few of the dogs, and it's exposure for the shelter. And so just the community has really been supportive. And Woodland, we do the same weekly adoption events at Pet Supplies Plus. And so that's where we'll take 10 to 15 kittens, and most of them find their homes. So it's a huge support. And staffing wise, I'm also bringing on some more extra help employees. So we did put a post out, and I received 150 applicants, which was amazing. And some of those are high school students, because now been shaking a few things up, but we have brought on some high school students during the summer. They're back at school, but they'll still be doing some time. Also looking for college students, so things that go in between their schedule. And so just really things are really looking positive. We do have a lot of animals, but we have a lot of people who are stepping up to help us. So, yep.
Questions?
Any questions from the?
I don't. Thank you for that information. I appreciate it.
Yeah, what was the name of the vet you said you have on?
Our vet right now is Dr. Serena Brenner.
And when did Dr. Brenner start?
When the contract with Davis.
Beginning of July.
Of July, yeah.
Okay. Do you currently have the ability to do spay neuter there at the clinic?
No, as she's been limited on, so we're hoping by the end of the month she can. But
We can't adopt pets out without having them spayed or neutered, is that right?
we are doing it with waiver right now. We're working on getting them caught up.
Do you know when that will be ready?
I would like to say tomorrow, but building a vet staff, that's been the hardest thing, is getting the support staff. So it's not just the veterinarian, it's the RBTs who can do the anesthesia. So we have 3 in the hiring process right now. So I'm hoping by the beginning of the month. And I just spoke with another veterinarian who they're willing to come in on, the weekends and come do some high volume. But that also is, there's a lot more that goes into it with the support staff. And so that's where because we didn't have county support staff, I'm having to hire that.
So it's correct that there's a portable spay neuter trailer on the site? Is that?
No, that is through a different rescue. That's through Amanda Hartman's, the Yolo Spay Neuter Group. And so that's completely separate from the shelter. And that was something that they've had, I believe, for the last 2 years. And we've been trying to advocate to find a location for that for the public and for high volume TNR. So that wouldn't, that wouldn't be used by the shelter, but it would be used by the community. So not for the shelter population, because we have our own trailer on site. So we do have a trailer on site with limited capability for extreme large dogs, but it's workable. We just have to.
It's functional.
It is functional. And with the new veterinarian and just other individuals who have come forward, they are taking a look at that rig and seeing the potential for managing that space and adding to it. So just the willingness to see what we have and make that work better is what we're really trying to do more efficient, because we want to increase the level of surgeries we were providing from before.
How many would you say dogs and cats that we have there now that we can't adopt because they're not spayed or neutered?
Probably about half right now, but we're working well, but that is, so we are getting them altered at different veterinarians here in town. So that is we're trying, but I'm not going to, that's the big concern, is that we would be euthanizing for a space, and that's not happening. So that's not one of the options. So finding alternative means to spay neuter them. And this issue was before even, the termination of the contract. There's been a shortage, and we've been relying heavily on Sacramento SPCA to do a lot of that. And so they are short as well. So, and we do not have the high volume. We won't have the need for high volume on a daily basis. It just is during this period. So trying to work together to get a team in who can come in on a weekend and, get these animals caught up.
I think it's important that we get that program going as soon as we can.
Yep.
It's, not only for the animals that are there now, but there are, like we hear, there's a lot. I hear stories of pets being dumped and, and people won't take them, they get picked up, and then they end up staying in the shelter.
Right. Well, it's not just dogs and cats. We currently have a potbelly pig mom and her 5 piglets who were dumped in West Sacramento, along with 8 laying hens. And so we found rescue for the laying hens, and I have a local rescue here in town. Crash Fund is going to be taking the mama and the piggies, and she's doing great in the dog kennel, which is, I think she might have come from a very loud environment, because she's doing great. And so, but we have her and her 5 piglets. So it isn't just dogs and cats, but we are, we're doing what we can. Our rescue partners are definitely, they're full as well, but we're all trying to. So yeah, as soon as we're moving our process through with the hiring, and it's really appreciate our county HR and the sheriff's HR department, who is moving these things pretty quickly. But
it's good to hear that the deferred maintenance is making some progress on getting those things fixed up. So, okay. Anyone else have any questions? Okay. Thank you.
Sure, Biasi, do you intend to take public comment on the different update items? I know we had general public comment at the beginning.
Yeah. Okay. Any public comment on this?
Some questions. How many dogs do we have in the shelter right now?
I believe yesterday was 92.
And of that, you said some, do you think that half of them? So when you say we're giving out waivers, That means that you're letting them leave the shelter without being spayed or neutered with a waiver to get spayed or neutered later.
That we will do it. Absolutely. It's what
At
we
some
did.
point.
Yeah, it's what we had to do during the pandemic when there was the shutdown and because of the vet shortage. So
And how many veterinary, so because I do other rescue, I'm being told by the public that there's nobody in the community has the ability to do spay and neuters right now. Everyone is full, and you reiterated that. So who and how many veterinarians are we actually working with?
4 clinics here in Yolo County.
And how many are they doing each week?
They're not yet. I'm working. That's what that's what we're working on. So
My concern as a member of the public and somebody who works in rescue is that you have too much on your plate to manage all of these pieces. And that we as an organization need to find her some support to create these relationships, because every single relationship is a one-on-one conversation. And there are no numbers. It's expensive to do this. So either the county is going to have to come up with matching funds, rescues are going to have to come up with matching funds, but there needs to be a collaboration. This can't take months and months. I mean, it just can't happen, and it's not fair to put it on one person who's running the kennel. You have other community members who are welcome, willing, and really have the assets to step up and have these conversations. So I'm hopeful that as we can facilitate those conversations by putting some other people in place to help support that. I mean, it's just not feasible for one person to be doing this. We keep talking about Stephanie juggling, but you can only juggle so many plates without plates falling. And the only thing that's suffering are the animals that are sitting, especially these large animals in 100+ temperature in the animal shelter. So as a member of the public, I think it's really important when we leave this meeting, and myself included, that we have action items. There have not been deliverables other than what Alex has worked on and Stephanie since we started in the last 6 months. And it's nobody's fault. I understand that people are coming and going, but I think that we need to be back to meeting on a monthly basis, and there need to be deliverables. Otherwise, it's lip service to the public, and the public is saying to me when I talk about the JPA, you guys have been doing this for 5 years, and I'm not seeing any results. You get together and you talk and you have great ideas, but nothing's coming out of it. So we appreciate the time, but we'd like to see some deliverables. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public comments?
I see that Supervisor Provenza has, Board Member Provenza has his hand raised.
Yes.
Thank
Go
you. Yes, I just wanted to point out that although it may not be obvious, a lot of people have been helping Stephanie. The CAO staff have been working nonstop on addressing some of these issues. Getting the new vet contract was a huge advance because UC Davis was just not able to give us the hours that we needed. And bringing people into the shelter to work, that is a big advance. In addition, you'll hear a report later on the effort to get the trailer or the mobile facility located, which is not for the animals in the shelter, as Stephanie mentioned, but available for the public for spay and neuter of animals, which is an essential ingredient to making the whole thing work. So that there's a lot going on behind the scenes that people should be aware of.
Okay, thank you.
And
You're
Chair,
welcome.
this is the moderator. We do have one hand raised for public comment.
Okay, go ahead.
Evelyn Dale.
Back again. I'm listening to the comments from Jim, the previous person, and I'm afraid I think it's great that there are things. It's good to hear Jim say that there are things that are going on. We need to get that out to the public. You need to let the communities know through the newspaper and the other media. But in addition to that, you have a lot more on your plate. And I don't want to see people glossing it over and saying, oh, we've done this, this, and that. The situation at Yolo County Animal Services needs to be improved, and the JPA that you are part of, this agency, needs to move forward with due speed as quickly as you possibly can. Things are not getting better, they're getting worse because the population here of animals and people is growing, as has been stated before. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, other comments in public?
Yes, I have Eileen Sametz.
Okay,
Thank you. I just wanted to respectfully say that high volume feral cat neutering is needed. There is no doubt that that is whether or not the in-house is considered a large volume or not. I don't have a handle on that, but I can tell you as someone who's working in the trenches on trap, neuter, release, and the way things are going right now is we have to rely on SAC SPCA, and they only take one animal a day. They only take 10 animals total, 10 feral animals in total, and from only one person. You can't bring in 2 animals. So, I mean, it's kind of an embarrassment. It should be that, you know, Yolo County is having to tap into SAC SPCA as it has been for years. But I'm just saying this because, and I know that the you know, that the shelter is working diligently to try to get this spay and neuter rig up and running. But I just wanted to make clear that large volume feral cat neutering, spaying and neutering is going to be an ongoing need. So as people have said earlier, the county needs to focus on making sure that that service is supported with funding, with whatever it needs. The group itself has you know, funding you know, to handle a lot of it, but you know, it's not going to be 100%, but getting that rig up and running, because I'm having to go trapping again this weekend because of some new kittens that have arrived. So it's just the problem is multiplying exponentially because cats can reproduce several times a year and litters of 6 or more kittens. So just you do the math, and as animals are being dumped, as they are being dumped on some of the colonies we're caring for, this problem is, it's a crisis. It's and we have a triage going on, I get it, but the triage at the top has to be spay and neuter, particularly for the ferals as well. I mean, because that problem is not going away. Thank you.
thank you. Do we have any more online? Okay. Not hearing any more public comment online or in the room. Okay, thank you, Stephanie. Next, we're going to receive an update on the animal services transition.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Alex Tengold to the County Administrator's Office. Some of this will be a repeat of what Stephanie shared, but when the Board of Supervisors adopted the Animal Services Transition Framework in March, part of that included a quarterly update to the board. Want to provide that same update to this group. I think we have one slide here that illustrates some of the main thrusts of this effort currently. So over the last several months, we've been working with our local agency partners, the cities in UC Davis, for which we provide contract animal services, working on a new MOU. Our current MOU expired, and we've in the process of finalizing a new MOU, which would be a 1-year term with 2 1-year options. We think this is really important for a number of reasons. One, it creates a longer runway for our partnership. We've operated on a year-to-year basis for many years, and we firmly believe that having a longer runway for that partnership can help us have some deeper conversations, deeper partnership, and I think begin to have a mechanism for addressing some of these structural issues, as we'll have a structural framework for partnership with our contracting entities. Very happy to report that the City of Woodland was the first to approve it at their council meeting on Tuesday. I understand that the City of Winters is taking theirs to council on September 5th, I believe. As Stephanie mentioned, in terms of veterinary services, we've been very engaged in that front. As Stephanie shared, our contract with UC Davis ended end of the fiscal year. We have both a contract DVM in place currently. We also have an extra help DVM. We're bringing on some extra help RVTs, as I think Stephanie shared. We hope to have those in place in the next couple of weeks, and then we'll have our vet team in place for the interim, so we can begin to engage in some of that in-shelter surgical work. We're also in the process of developing class specifications for those positions, so we have the option of converting them to permanent positions. And we're continuing to evaluate our vet services needs going forward, given our high population. That being said, we're very conscious of some of the budgetary constraints in our that have been brought forward. So we're working to work within that and develop a sustainable solution both for the shelter and for our public agency partners. Finally, on the deferred maintenance piece, number of projects and processes are included in the packet. As Stephanie mentioned, some of the major ones are we're working on a roof replacement, some HVAC work, security improvements, some much needed kennel improvements that for some additional flexibility given the larger animals that we're seeing. All of those are moving forward, and we'll continue to report out on that in our quarterly reports to the board. Finally, in regards to the transition itself, we've really been focused on some of these key operational matters. Once those have been resolved or on a path towards resolution, we can circle back to the policy conversation of the transition and present those recommendations and options to the board. So with that, that's the snapshot of where we are with that body of work. I'm happy to answer any questions that the JPA members may have.
So I have some probably fundamental questions about the cost allocation in your budget, but I think I'll meet with you offline and kind of run through some of that background because it's not really that essential to this conversation. So
Happy to
just
do.
kind of get me up to speed on some of these issues.
Yeah, happy to do some working closely with Davis PD on the new MOU, and we have a work group of all the jurisdictions that meets, I believe, meets monthly. So having a lot of positive conversations there. So I believe city staff should be, we've been having in constant dialogue. So just wanted to share that, and happy to chat with you individually though about the MOU and how those pieces fit together.
Thank you.
Just thanks for meeting with city staff. I know that our staff has been a lot of questions and GPA response and the ongoing.
Certainly.
Jim, do you have any questions?
No.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I mean, I've been fairly new to this particular committee, but I'm familiar with when the JPA was formed, and we talked about it for a couple of years before we actually formed it. I mean, and the goal of forming the JPA was to move towards how do we get a new shelter built, whether it's a privately ran, funded, how is this going to happen? I mean, it seems like this has been going on, as was said earlier, but this talk has been going for years. And I know we're in the transition right now of moving to the CAO's office, kind of taking over from the sheriff's office. But what are we doing for a long range plan to determine, what's our long range plan going to be? What are we doing to work towards that?
I think it's a great question. I think a focus of the work now is how do we build a sustainable program, and how do we build a runway where we have an engaged partnership with the cities, so that we can then have that conversation about, if we're looking at a capital outlay, what could that look like? What's the capacity? What are those options, and what would the costs be? I think we need to have a program that is operationally in a sustainable place, and agreements with our partners that are in a sustainable place. I think to have the most productive conversation about a potential capital outlay, and what the relationship between the counties and the cities would be in that conversation.
Yeah, I think that's important to really outline that. As we've heard, there's a lot of people willing to do fundraising and support this, which is a lot. That's often the big thing, is where's the money going to come from? But we have groups already organized that can start working on that. I think each of the city members need to go back. We need to go back to our community, and we put it on an agenda item to discuss, with the community, what are the top 4 priorities, what we want to see in an animal shelter. And we bring that back so that we can discuss that and try to make some progress on getting a long-term solution on this. I think is critical. So I'm willing to take it back to our council and, open it up, and hopefully all the other cities will. And I know we have a item farther in the agenda to talk about West Sacramento, and we can talk about that then. But I would like to see us all do something to try to really push this along to get going. So Are there any other questions?
I just have a brief comment.
Yeah.
That's okay. Yes, thank you. I agree with you. And what we had talked about before was having short and long term. The short term is getting our house in order in terms of sustainability of services and correcting some things that have happened largely during the pandemic, but we're already kind of going downhill, correcting that. But there's no reason not to have a dual track, to be also working on, okay, what is the future of the shelter? Do we need an expanded shelter? Do we need a whole new shelter? Once you have a plan in place, then you can do fundraising, you can seek grants and so forth. Without a plan in place, it's pretty hard to do that. So I see no reason why we can't have a dual track and work on both at the same time, understanding now that the priority is getting our house in order.
Yeah, I agree. The priority right now is getting our current shelter so that we can handle everything as much as we can now, but we also need to work on that long-range plan. And I don't know if that's going to mean we need to consider creating a subcommittee that can work together, bring more information together as a long-term plan. Bring on, maybe as Lisa talked about, bringing back on that liaison that can work with some of the other community out there. I think that's definitely something, whether we need to put that on the next agenda for discussion or whether we want to talk about it today, but I think that we really need to do something about a long-range plan. Because I like, the short-range planning that we're doing now, but we have to do more for our long range, I think. Yes.
Exactly. And one thing I wanted to mention about the liaisons is that there are a number of nonprofits and people outside this JPA, and it's possible to look at other models. For example, the Delta Conservancy has several liaison advisors who aren't voting members, but who attend and as a resource to answer questions and to participate. Not a little bit more level of participation than public comment. That's an idea, possibility. But I think if we had one come in as liaison advisor, we'd probably have to have a way for other nonprofits to participate as well.
Yeah, and I think if we could do that, I think that would be even better. The more information we can get from people who are involved with those groups, the more it will help us. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Just I guess it's a thought as well. So as all these conversations and I'm hearing everyone, I really would like to encourage the communities that, like Lisa was saying, that have resources, have those assets. I know when people think about the shelter as being the all encompassing for all things animals, what really is happening in the sheltering industry is keeping animals out of the shelter. So that's something that my colleagues that we struggle with is how do we keep pets with people? How do you, so there's a lot of things that need to happen outside the walls of the physical shelter, right? And animal services. And so animal services, my vision for us is that we're a hub, we're a resource hub. We aren't the resource. So where we have those connections with groups like UTP and, YOLO SPCA, YOLO Spay Neuter Group, we have those partnerships that really are community based. And so that way we can serve the animals that have to be surrendered, need those extra things. But, right now the shelter, just to put also in perspective of the kinds of cases we are seeing in the shelter is different than we ever have. So because people don't have the access to regular vet care or can't afford the services, we're seeing animals that are being surrendered that really just need medical care. That's not the purpose of a shelter, but that's what we're doing right now. And we are, that's going to drive those costs up for those individual animals. And rescue partners who used to just sweep up puppies and simple medical cases can't get them into their veterinarians. So this is, I would love a new building, but a new building is not going to fix this. And so I really just want to encourage those conversations, like Lisa said, and what you're saying with back in the cities, what everyone, their top priorities for what we should do. But really, this is where I need help with those bridges, those hubs. And not to say I don't need help in the shelter, but keeping those animals out of the shelter is really where we need to be focusing. Because if we can keep them out, if we can provide low-cost medical care outside, they're not even going to enter the walls of the shelter. They're not going to be picked up by the field officers. They're not going to be dumped in the orchards of Clarksburg, so I just wanted to say that I really am in support of finding more support, but it's way bigger than I can even imagine, but I do definitely want that help. So, and appreciate that.
And I think, as we talked about earlier, one of the effective ways of keeping the numbers down in the shelter is having that spay neuter capability that will help keep a lot of the animals out of the shelter to begin with. I know there's other reasons they're in there, but that I think is a big part of it as well. So sooner we do that, get that going, the better. So,
right.
Okay.
I wanted to follow,
Yeah.
thank you for that explanation too. And I just kind of wanted to follow up with that. So in your experience, to what extent do you see people surrendering pets because maybe haven't had the resources or the ability to train the pet? So they get frustrated when they surrender. Does that happen frequently?
It's frequent with the big dogs, with the larger breed dogs. Majority of why we're getting animals surrendered is lack of housing. So people are moving where they can't take large breed dogs. And so, or they can't take their 4 dogs, or they, so a lot of it is lack of housing. We also have a lot of individuals who will surrender them as stray. They have a microchip that comes back to them. So it's really, people are, even though they're signing off that this is not my dog, it is their dog. And so we're really trying to make that process, though it's better for the animals if people can just tell us a little bit about them. But the training is a big issue, and we have partnered with we offer any animal that is adopted from us. We do offer training resources, local trainers in Yolo County who have, asked to be part of that list. We also do Good Pup, which is an online, they partnered with us for some training, but a lot of these dogs are around 2 to 3 years old, which were gotten either they're accidental litters from the pandemic, or people were having litters of puppies thinking they could sell them, and they can't get them in for spay neuter. They're under socialized, so they're not bad dogs, but they're a lot, and a lot of returns to the shelter. So when they do adopt and they return, most of the time it's less than 24 hours, and it's because the dog was too much. And what does that mean? So we are working with local, I have some volunteers who are trying to do some training, but that also doesn't transfer to the new ownership. So we can do our best on that. But yeah, training is an issue, but it also is, the expectation too of some people when they adopt is just, these dogs they're a lot. They're high energy, huskies, shepherds, everything in between. So yeah, but I mean, we have cattle dogs and Pyrenees and Mastiffs. I mean, we have dogs that we never had. 10 years I've been there, and I've gotten a cattle dog, but that's few and far between. But now, I think I have 3 healers. These are working dogs. And so I don't know why are they not being redeemed? And, with redemption rates, we try to make it affordable for people, but then I have to also keep in mind, the allocation and for the cities too. I can't be, but trying to make it affordable for people. I would rather somebody redeem their animal, let me free microchip it. We do that a lot too. So I think that's where the industry is trying to shift to how do we keep them with the people. We do a pet food pantry too. So we pick up donations from different distributors every Thursday. It's hit or miss, but we try to give people pet food if that's what would keep them from keeping the animals out in the shelter. But our list for owner surrenders, we do them by appointment, just based on staffing and also our shelter population. But we probably have a list that is, I'd say probably 100 individuals who call, and we give them rehoming advice, which isn't always the best thing too, right? If it's a behavior problem, I'm just gonna say, well, give it to somebody else. I don't, personally think that it's always the best piece. But for dogs that are aggressive and things like that, we do accept them in immediately and pose a risk for health and safety, but people who are like, I just don't have time for this dog. That's the majority of why people want to surrender. And so we do have a waiting list, and I think people, I mean, they've told us, they're like, if you don't take this, we're going to dump it. And it's like, so my staff is like, take it, you know, so we do, unfortunately, I think a lot of it is time and housing though. People who will say I'm moving and I can't take my animals. So, yeah.
Yeah, I had similar experience when I adopted a dog from the vet med teaching hospital that was a blood donor there. But what made it successful for me is they offered training to come and help me train the dog. It was a big dog, very high energy, like you're talking about. They also provided dog food, I think free vet services for 6 months. And that was pretty key to, you know, making it successful. If we could have some kind of program where we could offer those things, that would help, I think. Thank you.
No, absolutely.
Other comments?
I have a comment,
Yes.
Stephanie, because I'm listening to you, and I do would like this, this group to consider that, right? The shelter. I mean, you're right. I think I'm in healthcare, so think about a hospital, right? And that's the last place, right? We want to keep people out of there. So really ensuring that we keep that front and center, that the goal is to keep animals out. And not necessarily invest all of our time, energy, and limited resources in just the new shelter, right? I'm not saying we don't need it. I want 5 vet shelters.
Right.
And the kennel, it's really sad to see that. To see the animals there. You're doing the best you can with what you have, but you just wanted to bring that up and discuss that. And thank you for sharing that.
Okay. Other comments from the board members? Okay, seeing none. Jim, you got your hand up? Go ahead.
Oh, I was just thinking, in terms of the shelter facilities, what we really need is a type of analysis that will tell us, is it adequate now? Can we improve it to meet current need? And then is it going to be adequate 10 years from now? If we can make it adequate by expanding, adding buildings, adding an operating room, whatever we need to do, then we go out and we get grants for that, fundraise for that. If not, then we need to look to a new shelter. But we don't have that analysis right now. We have some old plans for a new shelter, but what we really need to do is take a look at current needs, projected future needs, and decide whether we can continue with the current building with expansions and improvements. Because if we can, we need to get started. All that stuff takes a long time. The money takes a long time. And actually the work takes a long time. So that's why I'm suggesting the kind of dual track. And I think a subcommittee to work on that might make sense.
Yeah, I agree. I think we do need to look at that one, but my question is back, like you're saying, how do we do that? There's not we know we need to do it, but so how do we go about it? What's our plan for going about doing an assessment for what we need? And like I said earlier, I think going back and everybody checking with their city on what are their top needs, and we bring that information back and have that discussion.
Right, and we would probably have to have a consultant or someone staff at the staff level working on getting us the basic information we need to make those decisions.
The comments from the board? Not, I will ask for any public comment.
So I want to support what Jim said.
Could I ask you to step to the podium so you're properly captured on the recording? Thank you.
Thanks.
So Jim, I don't want to minimize the work of the county and Alex's work. I know they've been working behind the scenes. I'm really aware and so appreciative. And I also want to support what you said about parallel tracks. I think that's also, we talked about that 5 years ago, and I think that was your suggestion then. And I think that's really important. But I think the idea of, you've talked about looking at options, whether we have what we need now or what we need going into the future. But if we don't know what the cities are asking for, what their priorities are, we have no question to answer. So my feeling is that the deliverable for the next meeting is for those of you that represent your cities to go back to the city and say, what are your top 4 priorities? As Bill said, what's most important to you from animal sheltering? I support Stephanie 100% in the sense that, and like I also run a clinic. we're the last place we want to see you, but we do not have a robust fostering program. We don't have a robust volunteer program because there's one person trying to put their arms around all of this. So if we can create a subcommittee, if we can create relationships, Jim, as you said, whether it's with additional organizations, to do those things, we can't do it all. And we have never really gone out full force to the community and made a specific ask. I mean, I'd be willing to get on the phone and call 30 veterinarians in this county and say, would you be willing to donate your time? We will provide hard costs. Perhaps UTP can provide those costs to do X number of animals every month. I mean, this is not rocket science, but there's nobody doing it. And I don't believe that it's the county's responsibility to do it when there are other people willing to. I will volunteer my time to do that. I know there are others willing to do the same thing. So I implore you to take advantage of those of us like myself that are willing to do that, please, please. And also to bring a deliverable back from the cities. What do you want? We have to ask that question. Because otherwise we just keep talking in generalities. It's not fair to ask Alex to do research on something where he doesn't have the question that's posed to him. He's just pulling information and like it's just a giant database of information. We need specifics. Thanks. Sorry, I'm way over my time.
For public comments.
I don't have any, Eileen Sametz would like to speak.
Okay.
Go ahead, Eileen.
Thank you. This is kind of a difficult subject to talk about, but it's a reality that has been discussed on next door. Since there's going to be adoptions coming up and UCD students will be returning to the campus soon. One of the questions I've had in the past, because as someone who works on trap neuter release, we find that animals are dumped. In fact, I've adopted one of them from the colony I help with. Every year, right around when there's turnover of the apartments, and often near the student apartments like the U and along Olive Drive, we find there's abandoned cats. So my question is, what is the county's policy on, let's say, when international students try to adopt animals, what is the plan when they go back home? So, and the reason I'm raising this is because, you know, unless they are willing to commit to going through the process of transporting the animal, which is not an easy process, I've looked into it. It requires, it's very expensive. It's also requires isolation or quarantine. What is the county's policy on adopting out animals to students that live outside the country? Thank you.
Can I just interject to say that unfortunately, I think that topic is kind of outside the bounds of the agenda topics today. So we could potentially come back with information on it next time.
Okay. Their comments?
Yes, Chair. Nancy is trying to raise her hand. I see it go up. I see it go down, but I think she wanted to speak. Nancy, I'll allow you to speak if that's what you want to do.
Yes, I do. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm an old woman, technologically incompetent. I apologize for that. Two things. I heard you say you wanted a plan for certain things. Before retirement, I was a management consultant with a PhD expertise in strategic planning. I offer you my services should you wish. Number two, I wonder if any community services are being requested through community outreach for fostering, training fosters and getting fosters. As one of the other speakers said, I think there probably is a great many number of people who would be willing to foster under tutelage of the YCAS. And I wonder if that is being addressed at this time.
Thank you. Are there any more online?
I have no other hands raised, Chair.
Yeah, I would like to say maybe we can put this on our next agenda, that we have that discussion about forming a subcommittee, who we want on that subcommittee, liaisons, who all should be involved, and then we put that on our next agenda for action item.
We can certainly do that. Do you want to include a report out from the jurisdictions as to any outreach or
Yeah,
conversation they had with
Yeah,
their
any
council members or their
conversations,
staff or community, et cetera?
yes.
We can include that as well.
And are we currently still will be meeting every other month?
Our next meeting is October 19th.
Maybe we can then consider whether it's that subcommittee or what it might be, whether they meet more regularly to get that plan in place. But yeah, we can put that on the next agenda. I think would be great.
We can do that.
And I can also provide Alex with what programs are in process, or, what connections that I have on my end. So we're not, don't need to duplicate that as well, but give you a better idea and also answer some of those questions, the fostering and the adoption policy as well.
Thank you. Okay, I think that's everything on that item. We'll move on to the update on the spay neuter clinic.
Yes, so I think it was shared prior in the meeting at the last board meeting, there was a robust public comment regarding the Yolo County Spay Neuter Group. County staff has since met with the organization, and we've been working to identify a site for them to site their spay neuter rig, with the focus on which sites have the lowest barrier to entry in terms of their infrastructure and utility needs for their operation. We've been going through various county properties. I think we're close to having a site plan for that. Need to work out a couple more details and confer with the spay neuter group first, but hopefully we'll have a more substantive update in the next couple of weeks as to where that is. But we've been working diligently to find a location and one that we can get in order ASAP.
So you're talking about you can move it around from city to city.
Their idea is that it would be, I think, semi-permanent. I don't think they're looking to move it. With my understanding, they're not looking to move from city to city, looking to have, I think, a more semi-permanent location to direct people for low to no cost spay neuter services.
Regular hours, so regular schedule, so people will know when they can go.
Yeah, I think that's the have some certainty with the operation location and stuff like that.
Yeah. All right, questions on that update? Comments, anyone?
So the staffing you described earlier would be,
So
or
they-
this is different.
Yeah, maybe to expand a little bit. So
So-
this is a separate nonprofit. They sure they would have their own separate staff, whether volunteer or paid. It would be a service entirely separate from Yolo County Animal Services. It wouldn't serve the shelter population. This would be more of a broader community benefit, speaking to the need to, what can we do to prevent animals from kind of coming into the shelter ecosystem in the first place. And this is certainly one of those main thrusts, as well as to address kind of the community spay neuter needs. Obviously we're want to be supportive of that and find a location, but it's not directly associated with the provision of services to the Yolo County Animal Services animals that are under county, that are under the jurisdiction of the county in the shelter.
Alex, was that trailer able to do both cats and dogs? My understanding, they are able to do dogs, but not large dogs.
I think
They can't, so they've been renovating it to be able to do large dogs as well. And just to piggyback on why it can't be, or they really can't be mobile from city to city, is because they have extra trailers for additional recovery cages for those high volume TNR. So that's the plan. And we have been, Amanda Hartman and John Ramming worked closely with them, and we could just, basically they would use animal services for a few of those animals moving forward, but that's why they've developed this. And so, but they would also be doing public spay neuter, not just TNR, but the focus to get started would probably be the TNR, so that the feral cats, because that's what they stand in line. They personally are the ones who take cats over at 4 a.m. and try to get those 1 of 10 spots. And so the need is there. But they have a completely different staff and they've have completely renovated it from the previous owner.
At the county meeting that you were referring to, we
So-
talked about one, two.
Come up.
sorry.
Come up to the microphone.
At the county meeting, we talked about, the administrator agreed was gonna run out to the site and see if we could have it at the same location as the animal shelter. And I'm assuming that that was too much, there were too many issues locating it there.
Yeah, I mean, so there are, the rig does, we did meet with the group, I think the next day or
Yeah,
following day.
yeah.
There are infrastructure needs associated with that operation, utility needs, to keep costs down and deliver this sooner, as soon as we can. We did a broader review of than just of the animal shelter location, given some of those concerns.
Because I'm being asked after that meeting what the result was, because your office was fabulous about saying, let's go out there tomorrow and see if we can make this happen. And then, so I want to be able to say, you guys jumped on it, you looked at it, and it just wasn't feasible, and you're looking at alternative sites. Is that correct?
We're looking at a number of sites right now. Like I said, we hope to have something more substantial to report out. We also want to vet that site with the group to make sure that works for them.
No, that makes perfect
With
sense.
what they had in mind, but been working on this on a near daily basis
I
since
just
that meeting.
wanted to acknowledge that you
yeah,
guys
no.
did, you said you would, and you did it, and I think it's really important for people who were at that meeting, because it was a big meeting, to hear that you made a commitment, you followed through, that particular site didn't work, and you're doing everything you can to go somewhere else. I want to make sure that you guys get credit for the work that's being done, because as Jim said, there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes. And I think the public needs to know that you are really supportive and you're working really hard. And I'm not sure, maybe we need to do some more media to get that out to the communities. Because I think it is really important that they're aware that we're working on it, because they hear little bits and pieces of what's happening. It's kind of like what they hear about the shelter. All they hear is what's not working. But it's wonderful for them to also hear that there's a group of, representatives from the cities that are spending a lot of time working on this issue. It gives us credibility as an organization, and those of you that are putting time into this, you should be rewarded, at least, in your communities for your investment. And I think that that's a big part of being successful, is making sure that the public is aware that you're working. And, it's not just lip service. So I will see if I can figure out a way to get that done for the public. Thanks.
What did you say your timeline was for coming up with a location or semi-permanent location?
I think we hope to have a more substantive update in I think a matter of weeks, probably a week or two.
Good.
Yeah. But again, it's likely that site would likely need some degree of improvement. So, nothing's turnkey given the utility needs.
Some improvements. Okay. Other comments or questions? No more public comment? Yes, please, go ahead.
Leah here. I just wanted to remind you that our UTP board is a big board. We're a strong board. We meet once a month, Zoom. So it's strange to see some of my UTP people in public. But yeah, we're ready to go, and we're willing to work hard, and we have a strong commitment to animal services. We've been doing this for 5 years. I've been secretary for 5 years, and we keep going.
Thank you. Public comment? Okay, seeing
Yes,
none.
yes, Chair, I apologize. We do have one hand raised online, Amy Hannah.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that if y'all need to get the word out, I'm from Jersey. I got a big mouth and I got a big presence on social media, both in Woodland and Davis. And I am in Dixon groups as well, and I'm on Nextdoor all over. So there you go. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Get that site. And get things going. I will definitely need to get the word out. So, okay. All right.
I don't have any additional hands. Oh, I have Nancy. Nancy kind of goes back and forth here. I don't know if she wants to speak or not.
She's
Nancy,
waving.
go ahead. Oops.
Just another thing, I have done a lot of writing and volunteer work in addition to the pet therapy for Yolo Hospice. I've done some work for Tricia Hilliard, all for free because I care about what you are doing. So if you need any of those services and I can help you, if you feel I have the competence, I would be more than willing to offer my time and expertise.
Thank you. Okay. Any more?
I have no, Evelyn Dale.
Okay. Go ahead, Evelyn.
Okay, what I'd like is to, if possible, receive the minutes from this meeting, because I think, or somehow or another, I think it's been fairly productive. And I'd like to hear more. I'd like the details, and looks like we're going to be moving forward with getting the word out to the community about what's happening and what needs to happen. So that's all to the good. So is there a possibility of getting the meeting minutes?
How soon will we have the meetings put together, minutes put together for this meeting?
It just takes a couple of days and then we can.
Yeah, they'll be ready in a few days. They'll be located on the website. We can,
Yeah, they're posted to the county's website along with the agendas and other related materials.
so
Yeah,
they'll
we're
be
talking draft minutes here. You only post
Yeah.
the adopted ones typically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Good point, thank you.
yeah, we could post the draft minutes. And then once they're adopted, we can, our next meeting, we could then, yes.
We can also post a recording of this. We're recording this meeting and we can post the recording once it's ready to the county YouTube.
And where would that be posted?
The meeting recording can be posted in the next couple days.
Where? On what?
We'll put
Online?
on
Where?
our YouTube channel. I'll send out to the email group the address once it's posted.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any more online comments?
I don't have any additional hands raised at this time, Chair.
Seeing more hands up here, so we will move on to our action item. We receive an update, provide staff direction on requesting City of West Sacramento to become the signatory to the Yolo Animal Services JPA.
Yes, so I think it was also referenced previously in the meeting. Currently, the JPA consists of the county and the city of Davis, Woodland, and Winters. West Sacramento, though they contract for services with the county, has not been a signatory to this JPA. In the past, I know there have been some conversations with the city as to them joining. I think at some point the city had some concerns about the focus of the JPA on operational versus kind of capital outlay focused. That being said, given all the work that's going into animal services currently, thought it and per board direction at our prior board supervisors meeting, thought it would be timely to provide an update on those conversations. I know that Supervisor Villegas has reached out to his colleagues with the city council to re-engage in that conversation about the city potentially joining the JPA. Wanted to share that with this body, and then seek any further direction from the JPA in regards to that matter. There may be some value in letting kind of the organic outreach process play out first, and to see where that is. But wanted to share that update and receive any related direction from the JPA.
Okay. Comments, questions?
Yes. Yeah, I think it definitely makes sense to have West Sacramento participate, because whatever we do is going to affect them, and what they do or don't do is going to affect us as well. And particularly as we're making recommendations going forward. So it would be my suggestion that we send them a letter inviting them to participate. Just a couple paragraphs explaining what's going on and asking them to participate. And I did reach out to both the mayor of West Sac and to Supervisor Villegas and make clear that this JPA, we're advisory. We don't have the ability to order anything or to make a final decision on anything. But what we are trying to give good advice, and we are trying to get to a point where where we as cities and the county can move forward. So there's really no risk at their participation. It's really more a benefit. And so my suggestion is that if people agree, that we send them a letter and urge them to join us in this endeavor.
Yeah, and I would agree. I think if they have concerns, this would be their opportunity to be present and be part of the discussion, and they will know what we're planning for the future, how it may or may not affect them. And I think it's important that we reach out to them again and ask them if they want to be a member. Yeah, like Jim said, if we can provide an update to them, what we've done so far and what we're planning to do in the future, that might help to convince them. Their comments?
I'm just curious if when Supervisor Vegas reached out to the West Sac council members, were they receptive to the idea? What was the reaction to that when he reached out? Do we know?
Not aware of what the reaction was. He said he was in the process of doing so. So, but I'm not aware of what a kind of consensus or the reception was on that matter.
I mean, it certainly makes sense to me. We would want to extend the invitation for sure. I'm just curious about the one comment you made earlier that previously there had been some concern on West Sac's part in terms of this sort of balance between operations and capital outlay. Could you elaborate a little bit on that and what the concern was in the past?
Yeah, I think at an administrative level with many of the cities, there's as with any public service, there's cost concerns. And relative to animal services, I think there was from the city's perspective, a focus on, let's focus on the operational aspects as opposed to having a kind of a broad conversation about significant capital expenses related to a new shelter amongst other matters. So I think it's just a kind of a calibration of what is the focus, and then what's the expectation of participants in terms of potentially participating in such a arrangement.
And you also said that they currently receive services, but they're not a part of the JPA. So do they compensate the county?
Yes.
Services
So,
through the cost
yeah,
allocation
so-
still? They just.
Yes, they participate like everybody else in terms of the contract for services. They just don't participate in the JPA.
Very good. Yeah, no, it makes sense to me that we would invite them and see where it goes.
Any public comments? Oh, Jimmy, you have your hand up again. I see. Go ahead.
Well, I never took it down, but
Okay.
I'll make that a motion, but go ahead and if someone wants, go ahead and get the public comment first.
Take public comment on this item?
What's that?
Yeah. Come up to the podium.
I have to be very politically. I'm West Sac resident, and it's 1975 when I moved to Yolo County. Be very politically correct here. We have a mayor that's very much in favor of the animal shelter and being part of the JPA. We have Norma, one of our city council members. She's 100% in favor of the JPA. We have 3 other city council members who just gave our city manager a golden parachute. We pay him 1 year's salary if he leaves. Who Aaron made it very clear to me a few years ago, he did not want to participate in the JPA. And I will politically leave it there. Our mayor and our one city council member, Norma, are 100% in favor of the JPA.
Thank you. For the public comment? Online, any hands raised?
No hands raised, Chair.
Okay, Jim, I will open it up for motion if you would like.
Okay, so I will move that we send City of West Sacramento a letter asking for their participation in the JPA.
We have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 And as a sideliner, I say aye too.
So motion
And then,
passes.
so I assume then staff would draft a letter for the chair's signature.
Yes, yeah, we can do that to the mayor, CC the
Okay.
city council members and the city manager.
Yeah, that sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, our last regular agenda item. There's no more
discussion, I will go ahead and close the meeting. The next meeting is October 19th. In the meeting at 11:51. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tomorrow morning at 8. They're still super cute. Yeah. The kiddies, no,